So before we get started into our movement practice, I wanted to share some guidelines I like to share with people I haven't worked with before, haven't taught with before, just really simple stuff. The first is just that everything is an invitation. And so don't feel like you need to be doing exactly what I'm doing if you know that there are other options or alternatives that might feel better for you. The second thing is just that the goal is just to feel. And so I really like to encourage you to be present in the practice and not expect yourself to feel any particular way, whether during or afterwards. And then just lastly, your sense of safety comes first. And so I do try to teach from a trauma-informed lens, and I try to be very invitational in my language. But of course, I can't guarantee 100% that there would be no triggers or anything. And so please just take care of yourself as you need. You can always opt out or take a break. You can have your camera on or off, and that can change throughout the practice too. So no problems with that. And so, yeah, that's just wanting to let you know my approach. And so for today, I was going to pick two cards from a deck I have called Buddhism Reading Cards, Wisdom for Peace, Love, and Happiness. And I picked one card, and for some reason I felt like it wasn't enough. I felt like I wanted to pick another one. So the theme for tonight's class is just really based on which card resonates for you more. So the third person here, I'm just gonna let them in. And so I just want you to, take what is helpful for you, and you can leave the rest behind. And I've been thinking about these two themes and how they show up in my life as well. And so the first card that I picked is Patience. And the nice thing about this deck is that each card has like a different, really pretty colorful like art. So the first card I picked was Patience, and it says here, has a quote from Buddha: "At the end of the way is freedom, till then patience." And then this little excerpt that says, "Patience is a fine, noble quality. It implies that everything is possible in the timelessness of space and being, and a deep knowingness reminds you that nothing can fail you but your own impatience." And I am not a super patient person. I'm a pretty impatient person. If you know Ayurveda, like I'm a Pitta dosha, and so that makes me feel like I'm more prone towards impatience and getting irritated. But it is a good practice to remember, if nothing more than to just not burn yourself out. I think for me, sometimes I feel impatient because I feel like I want better for the world and for people around me, like right now, like yesterday. But it doesn't work like that. And then the other card that I picked, and this could also resonate with you more tonight, or maybe both would resonate, because this card I felt also really resonate with me. This is Discipline, and it has this quote from the Dalai Lama: "A disciplined mind leads to happiness. An undisciplined mind leads to suffering." And the excerpt here says, "Discipline is one of the most used practical tools to reunite the mind, body, and spirit, and is encouraged in many spiritual pursuits as a way to attain ultimate happiness." And so I also think about discipline, in the sense of not in a way that feels like punitive towards myself. I think sometimes we think of discipline like when we're a kid and our parents, might set rules or be really strict with us and discipline us if we don't follow through or something. But I like to think of discipline as kind of like having a sustainable energy and sustaining my energy towards building a better world or taking care of myself or whatever it is that I feel I need. And so both these ideas of discipline and patience, I feel like for me, are just very relevant. And again, you can practice tonight or today, wherever you are in the world, with either idea in mind. And maybe you find at certain points in the practice may require a little bit more patience, and at other points, maybe a little bit more discipline, because I definitely do feel that way as someone who cares a lot about things going on in the world, and thinking about myself as an advocate for the many issues I care about. Times where there's discipline to keep pushing, to sustain my energy to keep going, times to find a little bit more easefulness and to be a little bit more patient with myself and maybe with others around me. And so with all that said, we'll go ahead and start our practice since it's only an hour and I'm already about 10 minutes in. So you can start by lying down. I'm gonna come to the back of my mat. And if you like to, you can just lie down without any props. If you'd like to have some support, I'm just gonna take a blanket and create a little roll. I'm just gonna lie down so that my back is on top of the blanket as well as my head. So it's really mostly my upper and part of my mid back. Just a little bit of a chest opener here. That's optional. It can just be under your back. You can have your knees bent, feet on mat, or you can bring your legs out, whatever is more nourishing for you in the moment. You can close your eyes or soften the gaze. We'll just allow ourselves to arrive here. Taking a moment just to settle into whatever form you might be in, perhaps feeling the points of contact where your body is touching the earth beneath you or whatever prop is beneath you. And we'll just start by tuning in with the body. Maybe noticing if there's anything that is jumping out at you, whether it's areas of tension or maybe areas that feel really easeful and relaxed. Or maybe areas that might feel kind of neutral. And if this is interesting to you, you can continue to just observe the body here, or you can bring your attention to the breath. And just beginning to find your natural inhale and exhale. And just observing the natural flow of the breath. Steady inhale and steady exhale. And we'll just be here for maybe 3 or 4 more rounds of breath. And then if your eyes are closed here, you can gently blink your eyes open. If you have a prop underneath you, you can just roll to one side to remove it. Or we'll come back onto the back without any props. And we're going to begin with some movement in the legs here. So you can bring your arms out in a T or cactus arms. You can bring your feet out wider than your hips or mat width apart. And we'll just begin by bringing the legs side to side. You can move with the breath if that's helpful. You can exhale, bring the legs down, inhaling center and exhaling over onto the other side. Or you can breathe in the opposite way that I shared. If you find a place and you want to kind of stay still for a bit longer, if you're like on one side and you want to linger in there for a few moments before coming to center on the other side, please feel free to do so. We're just beginning to notice a little bit more in the lower body and maybe with the spinal twist as well. And we'll just go through one more round. If you're doing side to side, if you're lingering, making sure you do that other side. And when you're ready, you can have the knees back center. And we'll bring just some movement into the upper body. So we're just going to reach the arms up overhead and then bring them back down to the sides. You can inhale, reach up, and then exhale, come back down. Just beginning to notice a bit into the shoulders here. And we'll just do one more. And then as you're ready, perhaps rolling to one side and finding your way up into a seat. If you like to, you can take a blanket to sit on top of, just some cushioning for the hips. And you can sit cross-legged, or you can even sit on your shins, or just any other way that can support a tall spine. Think about bringing the shoulders down away from the ears. And so here we're just going to do a little bit of movement just to kind of stretch out through the sides of the body and a little bit in our necks. And then we will make our way into standing for a little bit, and then we'll come down back onto the mat again and just kind of stretch out and cool down. And then we'll have our Shavasana. So spine nice and tall, shoulders down away from the ears. First thing we'll do here is just check in with your chin. And just making sure that your chin is nice and leveled, so not going up or down. We're going to turn the chin towards one shoulder and then take a little nod here. And then come back to center and over onto the other shoulder and a little nod here. And we'll just do that one more time. Chin center, side, nod. Center, side, nod, center. And then we'll go ahead and just bring one ear to one shoulder. It doesn't matter which, because we'll do both sides. And here you can be still, or you can do little gentle micro movements with the chin. You can do a little bit of nodding, a little bit of side to side motion here. And then when you're ready, you can bring your head back to center and finding that same stretch on the other side, knowing it's okay if you need to do something a bit different. You can be still, or you can do little micro movements side to side, or a little bit of nodding. And then as you're ready, bringing the head back to center. And we'll just stretch out through the side of the body. So you can bring one arm up nice and long, reaching up, fingertips really nice and long here. And we'll reach over to one side and just stretching out through that side of the body, seeing what you notice here. Perhaps feeling into the sides of your ribs. Or maybe just feeling into what it's like to be in this shape where your spine was upright and now you're to the side. And as you're ready, you can bring yourself back to center. So spine is nice and upright again, and we'll do that on the other side. Reaching up first, nice and long, reaching through the fingertips, and then finding your stretch. Feeling into what this side is like. And then slowly finding your way back to center, spine is nice and long again. So we'll do a seated cat-cow movement here. So you can kind of keep it more simple, or you can add more movements to it. So to start, you can just have your hands on your knees or on your legs. Spine starts out nice and long. We're just going to inhale, bring the heart forward, and exhale around the back. You can drop your chin towards the chest. Inhale, coming forward, and exhale, rounding. Just a seated cat-cow, just a bit of movement for the spine. And similar to when we were doing the twisting on the ground, if you want to kind of stay in a seated cat or a seated cow for a few seconds, as that feels good, you can feel free to do that. Doing another round here. And then you can find your way back to a nice long spine. We're going to make our way into table. And we'll start off with a child's. And then we're going to make our way into a low lunge. That's why I have my blanket here. It's just if you need some knee support when you're in a low lunge. And so for child's, just bringing your hips towards your heels. The width of your knees can just depend on what you would like more of, whether you want your knees to be a little bit closer together or where you want to try having knees come out wider. And you can rest your forehead to mat, or you can stack your hands and rest your forehead on top of your hands. We'll just take a few rounds of breath here. Perhaps seeing what you're needing here, whether it is to practice patience before moving on, or practicing discipline and really feeling into your child's form. Taking another round of breath here. And then we'll find our way into table. We'll set up for a low lunge. If you have a block and you think you might like it, you can grab it. Maybe you'll need it, maybe not. So I'm just gonna have one block out here. So we're gonna start by bringing one foot forward. And I'm bringing my right foot forward first here, but it doesn't matter since we'll do both sides. And you just want to set up in a low lunge. And with your low lunge, just seeing if you can find sense of leveling for your hips here. So it's not like one hip is going all the way forward or one hip's going all the way back. And if you like to, you can have the block to kind of have your fingertips or your hand on just to kind of support yourself. But what we'll think about doing is shifting the hips forward here, maybe just to see if you can feel into the hip flexor, if that feels good. If it feels too much, you can kind of ease out of it a little bit. And then what we'll do next here And this is why I have a block here. It's possible you can, I like to have a block just because my arms are short, but it's possible you don't need a block and you can just bring your hands to the ground. So this is my right foot. My left leg is the one that's back. This is my left hand here. I'm going to place my left hand on the ground, or you can use a block. I'm going to bring my right arm up and open, kind of twisting a little bit towards my bent knee, towards my right leg. And then you can go ahead and come back to center. And what we're going to do next is we're just going to straighten out in the front leg. And so you can kind of bring your hands back if you'd like to, if that just kind of helps you to support yourself. You can also bring your toes up towards the ceiling. It's also possible you might like to have a slight micro bend, or even not a slight micro bend, but much more of a bend in the knee if your leg feels tight there. I'm going to take another breath. And then coming back into your low lunge, bending the knee. We're going to do this on the other side. And let's hope I remember that exact sequence. So from table, we're going to bring the other foot forward. And so this time, this happens to be my left foot that's forward. And I just kind of have this block here as an option for support. You may not need it. And what we'll do here is just make sure the hips are leveled and then shifting forward. Maybe feeling into the hip flexor on the other side. If it's too much, you can kind of ease out of it. You can also play with the positioning of where this front foot is. If you feel like if your knee is going beyond your ankle, if it's comfortable, you can stay there. But if it feels like a little bit too much and uncomfortable, you can walk the foot a little bit more forward. And then same thing as before. We're going to bring the hand or block onto the hand down. So this is my left knee. This is my right hand down. I'm going to bring my left arm up, opening. So I'm twisting towards my front knee. Taking another breath. As you're ready, you can release that hand down and we'll bring this leg back, straightening it. Again, you can bring your hands back to kind of frame your hips, if that's helpful. And stretching out through the back of this leg now. And as you're ready, you can bend that knee, come back into that low lunge. You can move the block to the side for now. And we'll transition into standing. So we'll come into a downward facing dog for that. Just as a transition point, we won't be hanging out in it too long. If you'd rather not, you can just come up into standing however you want and wait for me. But just making sure your fingers are spread nice and wide and pressing down into your knuckles. You can tuck your toes, lift your knees up and bring the hips back. We'll just find a nice long spine here to start. And then you can begin to straighten out in the legs if that feels good. And kind of think of bringing your heels, maybe bouncing a little bit up and down, lifting heels, lowering. Then when you're ready, just finding a little bit of stillness. You can also take your leg out wider. I find especially if my legs are feeling more tight, I like to take my feet out wider than I usually do. That just feels more easeful for my form and my legs. And then we'll transition into a standing forward fold. So you can either look up towards your hands or back towards your feet. You're going to either walk your hands towards your feet or your feet towards your hands. Doesn't really matter which. Today, I'm going to walk my hands towards my feet, so I'm in a standing forward fold. And again, here, you want to have some bend in the knees, you can, or it can be a bit more straight. I do recommend finding a place for your hands. So your hands can touch the ground, or you can kind of reach your hands down onto your leg towards your ankles. You can let the head hang, nod the head yes, and shake the head no, releasing any tension in your head or neck here perhaps. Now we'll go ahead and press into the feet. So being aware of the soles of the feet, you can bring your hands on your hips or your arms out into a T, and we'll come up into standing. And just finding a tall spine again. And so what we'll do today in standing, we'll just do some standing poses. We'll start off with our mountain pose, and then we'll do tree pose, a little bit of balancing, and then maybe a warrior or two. So first, finding your mountain pose, feet about hip width apart, all 10 toes are pointing forward. If you like, you can lift your toes, spread them wide, take them back down, just to really kind of feel into the feet, into the soles of the feet today. And you might feel into your weight. I know I feel like I'm often in my heels, and so I kind of want to even it out. So just try to even out your stance here. So you're really nice and grounded and as even as you can be. Spine is tall, chest is open, shoulders come down away from ears, hands just relax by your sides, and gaze is out soft. Feeling into your mountain or Tadasana here. Taking a breath, and again, using this moment to practice patience or practice discipline, whatever it is you feel you need more of tonight, today. The patience of simply being in Tadasana, in a way waiting to see what's next, or discipline of really feeling into your form of Tadasana, even though essentially it's so simple, it's simply just standing. But, you know, there's all these little elements to it, like really being grounded in the legs or in the feet and up the legs and the spine long and strong. So we'll play with some balance. We'll bring the weight over towards one leg. I will bring the ankle and heel to meet. If this is kind of just where you want to hang out, that is okay. One thing I want to mention is just to make sure that you're not hyper locking in your standing leg. So there should be a slight micro bend there. And then you can lift this leg up underneath the knee or even above the knee. And the reason I'm doing this is just because I'm wearing shorts and it's skin to skin. I feel like oftentimes when I teach in like yoga pants, the fabric makes it so much harder to come up this high. I tend to just kind of be here. But just feeling into your tree tonight, today, finding a tall spine, maybe feeling rooted down through the feet. Steady inhale and steady exhale. And you can stay here like this, or you can grow your branches. Also want to mention, I forget this a lot because I like practice by a wall. There's like walls around me, but you can always come to support of a wall or something else if you need to. And as you're ready, you can find your way down, kind of shake your limbs out as needed. And we'll find that on the other side. So starting again with your mountain, I'm standing with patience or discipline. And then shifting weight over onto one leg, ankle and heel meet. Again, you can just hang out here and really think about inviting this knee out to the side. It's pretty hot today where I'm at, and so I like the feeling of my back against the wall, so I'm going to do it for this side of just being close to the wall, feeling the coolness of the wall against my back and my arms as I practice tree on this side. Steady inhale, steady exhale. growing your branches as you might like to, if you'd like to. Arms can be however you'd like. And then as you're ready, finding your way out and shaking out the limbs. So we'll find our way into a Warrior 2 Virabhadrasana 2. And then maybe we'll do one other standing pose, and then we'll begin to make our way down, just because I really like to give time to really cool down and stretch out. So we're going to find wide stance for Warrior 2, and toes pointing forward. We'll bring one foot towards the short end of the mat, and finding your Warrior 2 alignment, heel in line with middle part of back foot. You can bend this front knee. Shoulders are above hips, reaching the arms out nice and long. You can gaze towards the front hand. And just taking a moment here to kind of press into the feet a little bit and just kind of notice what that's like with in terms of your weight as well as energetically, where you're feeling your feet are. And then similar to when we were in mountain, try to even out. And so it's easy to feel a lot more into the front leg. So see if you can maybe press a bit more into the back leg, or vice versa. If you feel like more in the back leg, see if you can press into the front. Steady inhale and steady exhale here. And taking another breath. We're going to go ahead and flip the front palm. Keep the lower body exactly the same. We're going to find our reverse or Exalted Warrior, keeping that bend in the front knee. Steady inhale and steady exhale here. As you're ready, coming back to center, releasing in the arms, and then we'll just pivot the feet for the other side. So same thing here, just setting up for your Warrior 2 legs and kind of shifting back and forth, finding shoulders above hips, reaching your arms out as you're ready. And then finding your stillness where you're mostly even on either leg, either foot. I'm finding on this side, could be different than the other. I'm finding that I need to really press into the back leg or into the back foot a little bit more here. Take another breath. Flipping in the front palm, finding a reverse warrior on this side. And noticing how this side feels for you. Maybe it's similar to the first, maybe it's a bit different. And as you're ready, you can come back to center, releasing in the arms and the legs. So we'll find our way into a standing forward fold. And similar to when we were in our forward fold that wasn't wide leg earlier, I do encourage you to find a place for your hands. And so you can always just kind of bend the knees more so the hands reach the ground, or you can just kind of walk your hands or reach your hands down towards your ankles if it doesn't quite touch the ground. So toes are pointing in forward in the same direction, maybe slightly inward, pigeon-toed if that is more comfortable for you. You can reach your arms up overhead just to find length and strength and just taking up space here. And then as you're ready, we'll fold in the hips, coming forward here. And then bringing your hands down wherever they might land. When you come down, if you want to adjust in the feet a bit, you can, whether it's bending in the knees or having the feet a little bit wider or a little bit more narrow. You can also let your head hang. So you can have your hands on ground or hands somewhere on your legs coming down towards your ankles. And then take a moment to ask yourself what would feel good to do next. So maybe for you, you want to stay still here, and it feels good just to be in stillness. I'm going to give a number of options here. So you can just stay still. Maybe for you, it feels good to kind of bend one knee, kind of come to the side, and then keep the other straight, and then do it on the other side. So you can kind of do this little side to side, almost like a little side to side shimmy. Or you can just be still. Or maybe checking in with your hips. Maybe it feels good to kind of take the hips side to side. Any movement here or stillness that feels good. We'll just spend a little bit of time. Don't need to worry about what I'm doing. I just happen to find this side to side movement fun. If you want to be still or do something else here, please feel free to do so. And then once you are ready, finishing up with whatever movement or stillness you might be doing, what we're going to do is we're going to bend the knees. You can bring your hands up to the hips and find our way back upright. And we'll kind of bring the feet back in together. And we're going to sort of come in similar to the way, come back down similar to the way that we came up. And so we came up with doing sort of like a downward dog and coming into a standing forward fold. And so this time we're going to come into a standard forward fold for a moment, just a regular one, not a wide one. And then we'll either walk our hands into a downward dog or into, a table or then child's. So up to you. So I'm going towards the back of my mat for this. Just inhaling both arms up overhead. Exhaling down. And then either walking forward to come into a downward facing dog for a moment, or walking forward so you can come onto your knees, you can come into child's. And we'll spend a little bit of time here doing whatever feels good. You can stay in downward facing dog, or you can come into child's, or you can kind of play around with whatever feels more nourishing for you. Right now, I just want to be in child's. We'll be in here for maybe 3 or 4 more rounds of breath. And then as you're ready, we'll slide onto the belly. So wherever you are, we'll slide onto the belly. We're gonna do a very gentle back bend. We're just gonna do a Sphinx pose. So letting your shoulders come down, or sorry, not your shoulder, your elbow come down from where your shoulders are. Letting your ears come, not your ears, letting your shoulders come down away from the ears. Ears just kind of stay where they are. And you can let your heart shine forward. And if this feels funky for your low back, you can always try it by taking the feet out wider. And it's just a very gentle back bend here. And just encouraging you to check in with your gaze, kind of gazing out forward. No need to kind of force your neck to tilt your chin up to try to come up higher or anything. Back of the neck should feel nice and comfortable. And perhaps feeling the ground, the earth beneath you, especially in your torso, maybe in your belly, especially as you're breathing. Maybe you notice a little bit of a contraction and expansion in the belly. And then as you're ready, you can go ahead and lower yourself down. And we'll spend a moment in what's called Makarasana or Crocodile pose. And so you can rest your forehead on top of your hands. You can just have your hands stacked. Just take a moment here to feel into what it's like to be in this form and to have the front of your body now touching the mat, the ground beneath you. And then what we'll do next is I'm going to give some options for a hip stretch. So we'll come into a half frog, and there's going to be different ways of practicing it. And if you come into a half frog and you're like, I don't like this, or I want something maybe more or different, you can also just press yourself up and do a pigeon pose. And so first thing here from our Makarasana is we're just going to bring one knee out to the side. And so your knee is just coming up from where your hip is. And you can stay like this, or you can bring the knee up a bit more or down a little bit more. It doesn't have to, once you have it out from where the hip is, you can kind of position it differently. Also know that you can always bring a rolled blanket underneath either the knee or even under the hip if you need a little bit more comfort and support. And that's the first place that you can be. Another thing you can do is just come up into that Sphinx shape. And this might just change the sensation slightly. Other thing you can do, like I said earlier, is if you just want to come into a pigeon pose. About 5 more rounds of breath here. And then wherever you are, you can slowly come out and find your way into the other side. So with this leg, I'm just bringing it back in, and I'm going to bring my other knee out to the side. And again, give yourself a moment if you like to adjust, if you want to bring that knee up more towards your elbow or down away from you. If you are just planning on staying down, you can change the cross of your hands. So if your right hand was on top of your left, you can bring your left hand on top of your right. Or you can also just come back up into this Sphinx shape in the upper body. Or you can come into pigeon, just whatever feels nourishing for you on this side. And 5 more rounds of breath. And then as you're ready, you can come on out wherever you are. And we'll make our way onto the back. So you just roll yourself so that you're on the back again. And take a moment to just feel into the back of your body again. Feel into the breath. Just seeing what you're present with here. And we'll find our way into a reclined butterfly. And so you can bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees come apart. And if you like to kind of switch up the sensation a bit, you can try it with the feet closer to your torso. That might give you a different sensation versus if you bring the feet further away from you. You can just observe what that is like. You can also play with making it more passive or active. So that means you can just kind of let your feet be, or you can think about really pressing the soles of your feet together and see how that might change the sensation for you. Finding your steady inhale and your steady exhale here. Then whenever you're ready, you can gently bring your knees back together and hug your knees in towards your chest. If it feels good for you, you can try rocking side to side. And now you'll find your way into your preferred form of Shavasana, but I'm actually going to give you a minute to get there just in case there's any last minute movements or stretches that you would like to do that I haven't done, or something that I offered before that you want to revisit before coming down into your preferred form of Shavasana. So I just have a timer out in front of me. I'll let you know when there's 30 seconds left before I guide you into your Shavasana. And 30 more seconds to complete whatever you might be doing. And begin to find your way into your preferred form of Shavasana. And so for your Shavasana, just checking in with your body, knowing that you can always get cozy with whatever props you might have around, bolsters, blankets, pillows. If you feel like you're in an environment where it might be too cool, you can bring a sweater or blanket over you. And just taking a moment to scan in the body to see where you can release effort or tension. Noticing your head, your neck, back, arms, buttocks, legs, feet. Noticing your face, your forehead, cheeks, and jaw. Maybe letting the tongue relax and letting your eyes sink a bit deeper into your eye sockets. And for Shavasana, what I like to do is I like to both mute myself and also turn my camera off. Sometimes that just helps with the light, like the screen light, to be a little bit darker. And so when I talk again, it would be to guide you out of your Shavasana, just so you know. Taking a moment to notice your breath, finding your inhale and your exhale. And I'll just remind you of the two cards I picked earlier. First one being patience, and the other one being discipline. And take a moment here to just feel into whatever you need in this moment. And then you can begin to bring movement into your fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. And as you're ready, you can roll over to one side and spend a few more rounds of breath there before finding your way into a seat, just taking your time. And so coming into a comfortable seat, you can bring the hands to the heart. You can have the eyes closed or to gaze soft. Just taking a moment to notice how you're feeling in your physical body, breath, and mind. Maybe noticing how you're feeling now compared to the beginning of our time together. And we will take a moment here. Notice the breath. And we'll end by inhaling together through the nose and exhaling out the mouth. Thank you so much for practicing with me. Gratitude to each and every one of you. May all beings be happy and free. May all beings have patience and discipline.